But as long as we say to ourselves we will do as we please, same thing, it falls into our moral structure. The morality of the people is falling, and falling seriously.
Howdy, howdy, everyone. I hope all is well in these troubling times. You know, just doing the usual, trying to spread the love, trying to spread this information, trying to spread this knowledge, trying to bring some more awareness to this information and to the journey within. So before we jump into today's wonderful show, I want to bring some awareness to the End of Slavery Summit that's being hosted by Corey Indrelet and Aaron Butler. This summit is starting tomorrow, I want to say, and I think now it's up to 50 plus speakers. So it is an online free summit. If anyone is still not familiar with it, you can go to the link that you are seeing on the screen. And again, this is the End of Slavery Summit being hosted by Corey Indrelet and Aaron Butler.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Brandon, thank you so much. Great to speak with you again, my friend. And well, wouldn't you know, we're both speakers in this summit. So yeah, I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to check it out. You guys are going to discover a load more of truth speakers, researchers, whatever, energy workers, if you will, that we're all looking to piece together the puzzles to the path towards freedom and, you know, true sovereignty and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you might remember Brandon Spencer from such classics as Lex Naturalis, Ma'at versus Ishvet, and even the one we did, Living as Light as a Feather with Brandon Spencer. Oh yeah, that was, yeah, I really loved doing that one with you. And
Yeah, that was fun.
yeah, oh yeah.
Before we get in, I just wanted to bring this to your awareness. Do I have been bumping some of your mixtapes like in the background of the past few weeks? And I have been loving them, man. As a matter of
Really?
fact, you had one of them that had two of my favorite Dead Pred songs, Psychology and Propaganda. You know,
Oh
which which we're gonna talk about this later. But man,
yeah.
when those songs started playing, man, and like I just couldn't control myself, and I was just I was singing along, thinking about the good old days. Because 10th grade year, man, I used to bump that CD. I loved it. As a matter of fact, that has probably been the most inspirational CD that has planted seeds in my mind. So hell, that's something that we can talk about later. But
Yeah, yeah,
I've been
totally.
loving those.
Yeah, because I had a bunch of questions lined out for you. This is just a free format, but I've been looking to do a series that is kind of like interviewing artists and music enthusiasts and people that, you know, like found levels of truth and awareness through music, you know, early on in life. And even if it was just some seeds of thought and ideas and like principles to kind of live by and adhere to, and you catch these inklings and it kind of opens up your intuition or whatever. And then later on down the line, like when you're like full on, like really awakened to a like higher state of just awareness and the frequency, you look back and like, how did these artists like come up with the knowledge, you know, that they're portraying so poetically and profoundly and through lyricism and other means, you know, it's like, it's really impressive. And yeah, been meaning to kind of pick the brains of some of these artists that influenced me. And I'm interested in, you know, talking with people like you who, you know, are at this point of, you know, like making some serious, you know, conscious contributions through your content and everything that you're doing and voicing your opinion about. It's really great, man. So yeah, folks like Dead Prez, let's get free, mon ami, may we.
Oh yeah, man. Stick
Uh,
man and one. I mean, hell, like I say, like man, and hell, like you said, like how did these artists, have retained the information and also too, putting it back in the style in the format that was considered a art and is still considered a art. How most how modern, how what hip hop artists or rappers don't have that style, lyrics. It's like they're on that Dr. Seuss, how Cat in the Hat type rhymes. It's not even really like 8 bars or anything like that. It's just all about having that catchy beat. But it's like in the late '90s and early 2000s. To me, that's when hip hop was booming. And that was when I, came across the whole Dead Preds, what
mm,
hell, Most Def, Talib Kweli, Black Star,
right.
the whole Rockers records, and I used to
Mm.
love that stuff, man.
What about these guys?
Oh, dude, Wu Tang Clan, yeah, hell, Enter the Wu,
And
hell,
of course,
36
they're
Chambers.
classic.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
dude, yeah. Hell, matter of fact, hell, I listened to that stuff so much that hell, freaking they would use the old school kung fu, words that hell. I went and watched all of those movies, and those kung fu movies have a lot of philosophical undertones. They have a lot of what archetypes, and the whole message hell is about freedom. Hell, freedom hell versus tyranny. So I highly encourage anyone to check out those old CDs and to also go and check out those movies.
Yeah, it's not just the Shaolin style, but yeah, so many different styles, and yeah, these ancient teachings passed down, and yeah, having that sacred tradition, if you will, even though it's not always 100% hermetically sealed, right? We can still just glean from and draw in all that good stuff because it's a lot better than what the hell we learned in public school, right? So that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned some really profound artists. And so where you grew up around Georgia, Atlanta, or is that where you're from originally?
Yeah, but just to be more specific, hell, Fulton County, which was hell, at the time, yeah, that is hell, in hell, Atlanta. I grew up by Banneker High School, which was in an area that was hell, predominantly black, hell, predominantly ghetto. And around my fifth grade year, my parents made possibly one of the best things that could ever be done is we moved out into the area known as Fayette County. And Fayette County was one of the, like more I guess like middle class areas, had better education, had just a better health environment, and it was actually thriving. And it was also a part of Peachtree City, and Peachtree City was like one of the third richest counties in the state, help Georgia.
Oh
So
wow.
it was my parents wanting to, give us a better opportunity that we was able to at least pull ourselves out of, a form of stagnation, a form of unconsciousness and straight ignorance because being in the Fulton County area, at the time, was a whole lot different than when I moved to Fayette County. And mind you, Fayette County was predominantly like 99%, white people, which is still fine because motherfuckers didn't give a shit back then, and we all broke bread together.
Hmm,
But it
that's cool.
was, yeah, it was a good health experience, not just for myself, but for the whole family. So
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's interesting. And did you notice as far as like those two different places, like speaking in generalities, like did you notice they were listening to the same type of music, or was it a little bit different, or what kind of musical influences have you kind of noticed, even like throughout the schoolyards or this and
Yeah.
that, kind of.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same kind of music that was being, listened to. And mind you, this would have been like the late '90s, early 2000s. And the early 2000s is when we had like the whole pop culture, like kind of getting big. But as far as like the rap and hip hop, yeah, have both parts in which I had lived, all listened to hip hop, how we all listen to, her rap music. It was just like a whole different tone, back then. It was a whole different style. It was a whole different flavor. Hell, we all just, it's like, hell, we all just wanted to get down and have fun, so
Yeah, you're
it's
talking
like,
about
hell, freaking,
like 90s, right? Mid
yeah,
90s.
yeah,
You're
yep.
how old, you were born what year again?
Yeah, 86.
86. Yeah, I was gonna say 86 actually too. Yeah, yeah, and I'm
Yep.
83, and so yeah, basically around the same era, that good
Yep.
stuff. So the true school and the old school,
Yep.
and we can get down with the new school, but yeah, it's just as you were referring, it's just not quite the same, and just like people's way of growing up and like not being having everything at your fingertips as if it's all instant gratification, and you all of a sudden think you know something just because you can Google it within a second doesn't mean someone's like integrated that knowledge, like book read at least, or
Right.
actually like took the time to watch documentaries that lasted for like 3 hours, or even went to like a fucking David Icke conference that's like a marathon of like 8 hours type of shit, or listen to Mark Passio's 9 hour fucking seminar type of shit,
Yeah.
but yeah.
This was the era of Blockbuster and VHS tapes. How people
Right.
forget all about those. Every Friday night, how you would go with the fams and how you would go to Blockbuster. How, mind you, it wasn't too much like conscious stuff there as far as in like video, but hell, in the music stuff, hell, the whole CDs, the whole cassettes and stuff like that. Yeah, that's where like the real conscious stuff was at, as far as in the music. And how we would burn DVDs, how burn tapes, and oh man, yeah, hell,
That's
those
to
were the
the
good old
homies.
days. Yep, hell, before the internet.
Yeah, no, just like having that actual substance, like you have a higher appreciation for it. You give it more value. You give it more time and consideration, I guess. Where like everything now, it's like, yeah, we say like we're creating content, we're content creators, but it's like we're also, I guess, like artists, and we're like honing in on our craft, and we do take this shit seriously, and we do honor it and have it at a sacred level. But yeah, that's just like, with YouTube and just like, TikTok and all this stuff, it's so fucking dispensable. And like even a lot of music is just dispensable now that it's all fucking
Yeah,
digitized.
yeah,
I was as we moved from analog to digital, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's just interesting how shit just gets watered down from that alone, and let alone, just like the perpetuated dumbing down of fucking like just not just hip hop in general, but all types of fucking media, right?
Yep.
So as far as like, yeah, going back to where you grew up around, like what were more like the aside from Outkast, right, and the whole Dungeon Family clique, were there any other like local artists that had influence on the area, or that you liked and knew, like that doesn't have to be underground, but yeah.
Well, funny story is because you brought up how Outcast is. I went to school with Big Boy's brother at a Fayette County high school. He was a year hell above me, and
Damn, wow, no
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. He was always dude, he was always clean. He was always clean, man. But yeah,
Oh, that's
hell, we had Outkast, hell, Goody Mob, man. How Goody
right.
Mob do soul food like that right there is a straight classic, man.
Fuck yeah.
How that cell therapy, man. Cujo was releasing some stuff way before his time, and
Yeah,
people
yeah,
still
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
about that stuff, man. And then you know, there was a lot of good music, but then there was a change because you had like the whole butt worship music, and then you had like the whole crunk style, like the whole Lil Jon stuff. And
Yeah,
mind
yeah.
you, it's like that would like invoke a lot of energy, a lot of masculine energy, a lot of uncontrolled energy, and that's where a lot of people, would kind of shift their focus to like once we got to like around the 2002s, to where it was more of the beats, hell, and not so much hell the lyrics, and then the whole butt worship stuff, hell, that was always big, sadly, hell, in the South, and let's see, a lot of people was kind of venturing out, and I was kind of going more into the underground, like New York style stuff,
Okay.
like how Rockets Records and
Mm,
all
yeah,
of those
yeah.
mixtapes, how Most Def, the whole Black Star album, way before Tyler Quali and all
Mm,
them kind of got on some nonsense, and then too, the whole Memphis, Tennessee area, with the like Player Fly. I love some of his older stuff, and then some of the early 3 6 Mafia stuff. And I mind, and
yeah,
and I know like it's not very conscious stuff, but it was just something that resonated with me, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. Their
And then
first album, I think,
yeah,
that was really cool. They had some really interesting concepts. Dude, these people are like street journalists, and like even if it can be gruesome or whatever, it's just like they're like painting a picture of their fucking reality. Like they're subjected to this
yeah,
shit. It gets dark in some of these areas that they grew up in, and like they're just using music as a transmutational tool to, release that fucking anger that they might have, and like it is a form of shadow work almost in a sense as well, right?
yep. And then
Yeah.
Bone Thugs and Harmony, that
Oh
was
yeah.
always a group, because as we got older, how we all wanted to try, how the Mary Jane and how Bone Thug was always there,
Mhm.
let's see who else. Then you kind of had like the Houston music, or like the Texas, how UGK, how man, like freaking they was always freaking thumping.
Yeah. And one of them
Yeah.
passed away, right? Pimp
Yep.
C, is he the one that? Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah,
Help Pimp C's lyrics.
he
Mind
was
you,
starting to be more outspoken, wasn't he? In later.
oh yeah. And then too, they was always hell about lyrics, especially like their first few CDs. Cause hell, one of my best friends, he would always put on that first CD, man. We would sit hell in the driveway fucking hot boxing. He would always put on that UGK song, man. And
Wow.
yeah, hell love some UGK, because
Mm.
they were just straight hell about lyrics, man. I'm trying to think
K
who
Rhino
else.
from that area. Are you familiar
Who?
with him much?
Oh,
K Rhino, K Reno. I forget how you pronounce it. I think
nah.
he's from maybe not Houston, but somewhere in Texas. He's
The
pretty
funny,
hardcore, conscious
yeah.
level type of, yeah.
The funny thing is it's like now that I look back at it, it was a lot of just baseless feuding. Like people coming from the same area, or like people with different styles, and it's like man, like for all of the feuding was nonsense, because you had people from the South, and they had and it's like they had their style and their flavor for music. You had people who was up north and they had freaking their style of flavor. Then you had people out of Texas, because when the whole chopped and screwed stuff came along, I
Right.
love that
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, because that
Yeah.
was a whole different style. That was a whole different flavor. It was more slowed down, and how motherfuckers would hate on them, because then you was kind of getting into more of the, you know, I don't want to say like like sorcery, but instead of lyrics, it's more of a sound, to
The
kind of resonate
T-Pain
with.
and that kind of shit.
Yeah. You're getting
That
more
auto-
into that electronic stuff, and yeah, I was never really a fan of T Pain, but he can do some good choruses. Hell, forget
Yeah.
about it. But yeah, it was just that unrealistic style. It never really vibed with me. But the whole chop and screw, it was something hell about then. But that was back forgetting a time when I was smoking hella blunts, and I was just baked out of my ass. So the whole chop and screw stuff, of course, would
Yeah, just
resonate with
bobbing
you.
your head, just like, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But yeah, man,
That's good to know,
like the
yeah.
whole music stuff. And then too, yeah, I was one of the first people who ventured outside of just rap and hip hop.
Ah, cool.
Yeah,
As far as like
I
your amongst your comrades or your crew and
yeah,
shit like that. Mm.
yeah, cause dude, I love me some Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, I know people don't really like them, and it's totally understandable. But man, the whole Californication CD, it changed my mind because how
Huh.
growing up in a predominantly how all black family, and having all black friends, how race to me was never really something that how I paid attention to. And then how when people would hear me how bumping how my Red Hot Chili Peppers, fucking they would be like, man, how you bumping some white boy music. I'm like, dude, like how why the fuck does it matter as long as I like the music. Like I don't give a fuck who it's coming from as long as the shit
Mm.
resonates with me. So hell, that right there kind of opened up, how my doors as far as,
Wow.
like the whole stereotypes and, how
Mm.
people who were saying like, oh, because you're black, you have to only bump hell with R&B, rap, and a hip
Mm.
hop. Cause I remember how when I bought that CD, how my grandma was like, Brandon, that's not the kind of, music for little black boys. And I'm like, yeah, but I like this song, Californication, so why can't I fucking get it? So yeah, it was just the stereotypes,
Wow,
man.
that's interesting. It's really interesting. Wow. Damn, yeah. I didn't. The first tape cassette I ever had was Green Day, Dookie, and I was pretty big on like alternative rock and this and that, and I got turned on to rap around the same time as well. And I was digging like the Snoop Dogg stuff, and yeah, oh, the Dr. Dre Chronic, and then you hear,
Oh
then
yeah,
the
Chronic. Oh
floodgates
yeah,
go open, and then yeah, man.
Chronic 2001. Oh man, yeah, Dr. Dre,
Yeah,
and
but it's
then
sorry. Go.
one quick thing. I remember when Eminem hit the scene. Cause man, when he hit the scene, he was this white boy and he was dropping like hell lyrics. But you remember he had the blonde hair. And like I say, I had just moved to Fayette County and it was pretty much on 99% in the whole
Oh,
white area.
geez, they went ape shit over that, I bet.
Well, hell, the kids start dyeing their hair white, because kids want to
Oh, wow.
imitate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like hell, what half the little, how white boys all had blonde hair because they wanted to imitate, how Eminem
That's
talk about.
interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
That's funny, but yeah, I mean, like going back to, it's just weird how people feel like they have to identify with a particular demographic, and since that, it's predominantly, hip hop is founded off of, your culture. So that's totally understandable. But, as far as like being able to branch off outside of that and be having that be accepted as if music isn't fucking universal and all that stuff, and vice versa for anyone of any background, listening to anything, like
yeah,
music is just something that's so it's I don't know.
right.
I thought that's something that transcends, anything, better than most other things out there. Why are we getting hung up on that now? Like kind of, and then like today, it's like we have to identify with, all these superheroes. We got to tokenize this people because people growing up in, the minority groups, they need to identify with that. And I'm thinking about that, and I've been reflecting on this kind of recently, and looking back at my history. It's like, okay, well, like my biggest influences are all like, black people or whatever from, hip hop, and for the majority, I never felt, growing up like, oh, I have to identify as a black person. Like, I never fucking wiggered the fuck out or any of that shit,
Yeah,
really. I mean, yeah, I might have put the hat on for a minute just to, okay, wait, this ain't me type of thing. But, like, fuck, man, it's just like, what's up with the ego identification and like the obsession of having to, you know what I mean? It's like we have to put a face on it, on every fucking thing. And when things are so compartmentalized in this, overgeneralized society, they're, you know,
yeah. Hell, what a lot of people don't know is, that's one of the main things that's holding a lot of black people back in the so-called, black community is they buy into the stereotype just as hard as, hell,
mm,
the next motherfucker. How they think that, how you can only shop at black businesses, how you can only eat soul food, you can only listen to black music, how you only need to watch, entertainment that's put out by black people. Is like, isn't that the same, her mentality, that you projected on other people and called them racist for? So then how is it that, if you do that same, her behavior and you follow, that same playbook, then how is it okay for you? And then too, like, for that's one of the main things that's holding, held most black people back because it keeps them in their stereotype. Hell, it keeps them identifying her with color and not, based on truth, freaking not based on, principles, or not based on what someone's behaviors and actions are. And then two, it doesn't really hold anyone to any form of standard because, hell, freaking they'll say, well, because this person is black, hell, freaking they can get hell away with doing hell wrong and hell immoral behavior. And hell, I have a huge problem with that. And yeah, hell, that's one of the things that a lot of black people and hell, I shouldn't even say black people, because how now that how now this mind control has been indoctrinated into many other cultures.
right.
Because you see this to certain degrees in how other forms in other cultures. How people who just think, oh, because this person is the same color as me, if they do something, hell that's wrong, then hell is fine. Or because hell
Yeah,
because
moral relativism type of shit.
yeah, that's really all that it boils down to. It's just another form of moral relativism, and people thinking that hell because their skin tone is one color is somehow right for them to do it, but then someone else does that same act and behavior, then it's wrong. And hell, that's the cognitive dissonance. And sadly, that's ingrained in most black people. Because sadly, most black people still have a slave mentality, and they don't even realize it. They still have that slave mentality.
Huh. That's too bad, man. Fuck. That's interesting. Fuck, man. How do we break these cycles? Because I mean, like, I don't know. The writing's been on the wall. There's been plenty of artists that have been trying to, wakey, like, this hasn't been working out. Like, we're still kind of pitting each other against each other, and it's not
Right.
just black against black or white against white or white against black or like take all the colors and all out of that. Like, why do we always have to like pinpoint it as like this is something? And I'm gonna have a series called "Conquering the Divide," and all these fucking dialectics need to get tossed the fuck out of the human psyche because we're so much better than this shit.
Yep.
But going back to where you're from, I've always been interested. It's reference, the dirty South and all that stuff. I mean, what's
The
so
dirty,
dirty about
yeah.
it?
Oh, it's dirty, all right. Hell, when you go to the city of Atlanta, it's a bunch
Really?
of shit. Hell, it's a bunch of trash. Like, yeah,
Oh, really?
it's fucking dirty. Yeah,
Damn. Oh, what?
it's dirty, all
What's the
right.
causal factor of that?
Huh?
Just people don't want to clean up after the shit, or
Well, you know, when people still put certain people in charge to rule them, hell, one thing is people in government don't give a fuck. Like people in government don't give a shit. Um,
um,
Now, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever heard of somebody in any government position that gets paid late? No. They get their paycheck on time. You've never heard one story of anyone who worked in government complaining about how their paycheck fucking is late. So if you do work in government, you know you're going to get paid on time. So why the fuck would
yeah,
you give a shit about anything?
yeah.
So yeah,
That's easy to pay lip service, and rather than to
right,
do
yeah.
something.
Yeah, right, yeah. Because all they have to do is just sit back, and they know how they are going to get paid by the stolen
Mhm.
dollars, by somebody else. So it's like, hell, why do they need to do anything? And then the next motherfucker, will come in and do the exact same thing, and nothing gets changed. Hell, I live a mile away from when those riots happened in 2000. I said, was it last year or 2020?
Probably
As a matter of
yeah.
fact, hell, when that Wendy's got burned down, I had moved there like afterwards, and you can still see some of the remnants from all of that shit.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a big a big shit fest. It wasn't as bad as Baltimore, but it was a big shit fest, and they had like no intention of doing anything hell about it.
Wow. Okay. Height
But
of human civilization right here, 2020, 2022, whatever the fuck, what it do? Like, honestly,
yeah,
really. Do they like to lay in their own shit type of thing? And man, I guess they don't really have, the stolen, taxpayer dollars, going towards municipalities to actually, clean the city up to a decent degree or whatever. Not like that's going to be the fucking solution anyways, but dude, I've just like on a person, level consciousness, the average individual really doesn't give a fuck anyways. So they don't have that activated
yep,
care within them. They don't have
yep,
that, integrated responsibility and just like wanting to, see a place clean and like lead by example even, fuck.
yeah. And look, we don't even need the government to like clean up these, like to clean up these areas. If everyone took the time and had the care and was willing to, put in that willpower, we can all come together to clean up our communities, to clean up, help our societies, to clean up our own households. But most people won't even come together within their own selves to clean and purge their own problems. Have to clean and heal their own trauma. So that's the reason why hell we are hell fighting and bickering on the external, because most people aren't willing to clean up and purge themselves of whatever is holding them back
Yeah,
on
a lot of
on
projections
the
out there.
internal. Yeah.
I was laughing a second ago because I was thinking, it's like, yeah, a lot of people, you go into their house, like a lot of people don't know how to fucking recycle, take care of their own shit, be organized. And then, I don't know if you've heard this like argument for, people that are against like, less government, even like, to go non-extreme, a libertarian, let's not even go to the, the true side of anarchy, but like, oh, you think, you're going to be able to live in a society where people are responsible. These people can't even, the average person can't even, return a shopping cart at their local fucking grocery store, like, and like, it's
Cart
sad, but it's
narcs.
true,
Cart
like,
narcs.
like, how can they take responsibility for a society if they can't take responsibility for a shopping cart, let
Yeah.
alone, you think these people are gardening and, having any kind of food up in their shit? Not like I do, but I've been kind of a rolling stone for the past 3 years. So I got some reasons why. But anyways.
Yeah. The reason why I said cart narcs because there's a YouTube channel, and the
Oh yeah.
dude, like
Okay, I
Keisha
didn't catch
goes in and he just makes fun and harasses people who don't put their carts back up.
Oh wow.
And it's pretty funny, but and it's like it's like hell, I get it because my first job hell was at Kroger, and I would have to push the carts
Oh
back.
yeah.
So at least when
Mhm.
I do go shopping, I always put the carts back because yes, hell, I do understand because people just leave them out in like the most fucking awkward spots, and if someone can't park
Right.
or it hits someone's car, or it's like, come on, man, like just take the 10 seconds just to put it back. Like it's not that hard. It's like just care. But people think that they're so busy, or and then too, most people are just fucking lazy. Let's be honest. People they are just fucking lazy. Like they are literally just fucking lazy pieces of shit. Sadly, and how freaking how that mentality is. Well, someone's how being paid to do it, but it's
Yeah.
like yes, that may be true, but you still pull that card out. So, just put it back hell where it fucking goes. And then two, you're blocking that spot from someone else, or, hell, they'll put it in a handicapped spot, or, fucking the shit just rolls and hits someone else's car. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, they don't understand the cause and effect to
Yeah.
like that degree at least. Like that's like elementary shit. And yeah, it reminded me of like me living in Paris for 5 years and like seeing how people don't give a fuck. Like I was living, getting outside of my apartment, like walking and into a busy ass fucking street, like in the heart of the city type of shit. It's like, okay, yeah, this is where I live. And like, as soon as I step out the door, a lot of times I see people, flicking a cigarette butt and this and that. I'm just like, wow. And there's like a ashtray garbage can, like literally like 10 feet in front of them, and sometimes I was bold enough to fucking, call people out on that shit. And one of the sad responses I got from one of these people, and this is like, I wouldn't say it's a general mentality that people have, but it's like they almost expect, their taxpayer monies to pay for the municipal services to literally like clean the shit up and wipe their ass after they, take a dump or whatever the fuck. Like my taxpayer monies are paying for, my cigarette butts to be cleaned,
Gosh.
and all that shit. Even
You know
though like
what?
measures have been taken, people do get fines for, flicking their
Yeah.
cigarette butts, even though there ain't no force to, enforce that. And there shouldn't be anyways, people should fucking know better. And that stolen taxpayer money could be driven towards, more important things than, people's fucking pathetic, lazy ass managements and lack of a fuck given towards just like simple things like trash, their own fucking trash. Because their
Yeah.
mentality is a little bit trash. Isn't that kind of a reflection of that?
Oh, yeah.
I want to ask you a question stemming on that, because like going back to music, there seems to be this certain type of like this art of like not giving a fuck. And there's a decent way of doing it, kind of like you and I are, that are just like, we're standing on like solid, gnosis of self and eternal principles to a good degree, right? But like there's this other like, oh, drop the mic, like I'm super cool factor, I got my motherfucking swag and whatever the fuck, it just comes off like really whack. And like people be acting like, their shit don't stink, and it's like this this like dark side of not giving a fuck, and like which actually kind of exposes their lack of like true care almost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like it's their ego, that's that helps running the show. Now, when we are talking about not giving a fuck, it's how not giving a fuck about certain things and caring about things that are held important, that are held relevant, like how knowledge, freedom, truth, going held within ourselves, adhering to our principles. It's like what they're talking about is almost like a form of nihilism. Hell, just don't give a shit hell about anything. Hell, you only hell, you're only here for one life. This whole what is it? Fucking YOLO. You only live once. Hell, bullshit. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Hell, there is no purpose. Just hell, you're just here to have fun and do whatever the fuck hell you want to. And yeah, hell, that is being spewed by hell a lot of people in in the music industry, and of course rap, hip hop, but it's all coming from an egoic center. Well, hell, I shouldn't really even say center because they're not very centered. It's all coming from a place of ego, because really what they are saying is like, hey, your ego is running the show, and pretty much you can do whatever you want to do, and don't give a fuck about anybody else outside of your own physical self and anything pretty much how that you want. So in actuality, it's almost too like a little smaller form of Satanism, because how their ego is running the show, and they're not really coming from a place of true care, true heart based hell intelligence. There is no compassion, there is no empathy. The only thing that they really care about is their own self, their own ego. Getting whatever form of monetary possession, getting whatever form hell for a material possession, and then two, this is what inflates the whole narcissist, the whole sociopath, and two, the whole secondary form of psychopathy, because people haven't really experienced what true love is. People haven't really experienced what true care is. People really haven't really felt that true compassion. Most people have not been hugged. Most people don't have that connection. Most people have not been touched. Most people have not really had someone to give them true guidance in that form of true care, that feminine form, that true feminine principle. So they can only go by whatever their programming is, and we all know that that the programming is that form of egoic hell attachment, and then that's why these people have become these narcissists, and we see it being played out on a daily basis. How people just putting just them on their what social medias, just talking hell about them for all the time, like fucking literally will see somebody in need, and then they will not offer that hand in extension to help, that hand in gratitude, that hand to help up your fellow brother or your fellow sister or your fellow a neighbor. No, they take their hand and pull out their phone because they want to record to get views for their own egoic self, so they can put it online, so they can really get their 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, they love that attention, man.
Yeah. And it's like they are into that means of seduction by pleasing their own ego by way of gratification, from the physical self, not really that gratification by, by opening up your arms to submit to care, to say, hey, I am here to help. Like, hey, do you need some help? Or to even offer some help. And when you do that to people in today's day and age, they are shocked. They don't understand it, because it's something new to them. And then when you do, offer, that true help, they don't really know how to comprehend it, because it's something new to them that they've never really experienced before, because they are used to everyone, just downgrading them or belittling them or just completely being so self-centered. When they do truly come across someone who truly cares, who's willing to, help open up that heart-based intelligence, it throws people off. And I know you probably experienced it too.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of people get kind of, they can be skeptical. It's like, hey, no one approaches me like this without some kind of hidden agenda, or like what's the catch, right? Or
Yeah.
Fuck, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so vain, man. Why is there
Yeah.
so much appeal to image? You've seen the programming and why it is. It's not just rap, hip hop. even like country, but a lot of pop culture, and it's like it's marketed for a reason, it's popular for a reason. You've seen Musical Truth from Mark Devlin, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's got 2 books on that title. He's done plenty of presentations, interviews, all that stuff. I still have yet to get his book yet, but I really do want to, because it's chock full of good stuff and goes into all these things and why they want to have these things perpetuated. It's like a self-perpetuating fucking thing, you know? It's like, get the people's heroes popularized and, you know, make them do their little song and dance with their bells and whistles, and everyone's going to do the monkey see, monkey do thing, you know, because we're on a monkey mind, like base level consciousness for the majority of people, which is why things are so dumbed down the way they are. They're dancing around the Masonic checkered board of, you know, base level consciousness, and we're trying to alchemize that lead into fucking gold, right? Which is why I love what you're talking about. These hands, man, this is fucking magic, right? That magical musician effect, and how we can actually, you know, use that side of appeal, like twist it for the good, not just like, hey, shiny objects over here in the false light, look at me, you know. It's like, no, you know, I don't give a fuck how I look. It's just like image. Ooh, you know, it's like, oh, I'm white, big deal. It's like, all that shit like doesn't matter. What is the substance behind the voice box of the person speaking that you're listening to? Pretty much, you know? And it's like, yeah, I knew about less than a dozen really good rappers, hip hoppers, whatever, that were whites that way before I knew about Eminem, you know. And it's just like, it was never like a big thing to me, you know. He had some really interesting stuff, and it was pretty like new for the time. First album was kind of cool, but just really morbid, and having to rap about trying to kill his wife and all that stuff. It's like, wow, okay, actually, you know what? I'm cool, yo. Like, yeah, like I got some way better shit than that. But like for whatever, I can pull back and not get hung up on whatever people say and do. And this, I can just like, okay, that person's a fucking clown, but you know, like, they got talent, you know. People have undeniable talent, and that's kind of the reason why that they are kind of recruited and they sell their soul and sign the dotted line, you know. It's why those guys are approached, because they got a lot of talent and they got that sex appeal, especially for, you know, whoever. And it goes on and on, but yeah, man, just same old shit. So how do we script, yo?
And look, just because you have talent doesn't mean that you know how to put that talent toward right moral use, because we've seen throughout history, you know, how people do have a lot of talent. You know, people may, you know, be gifted in certain, you know, areas, in certain crafts, yet they still get manipulated and use that for, you know, evil purposes. So just because you have talent, that, you know, that's not the end game goal, because talent is just a tool. And just like with any other tool, what do you do with it, with your hands and your behaviors? And I'm glad you brought up the hands, because, man, so many people don't understand the responsibility that comes with just having these things. You know,
dude, your presentation was awesome that you did on that.
Oh yeah, thank you. And you know, hell, I can only give praise, you know, to the great Manly P. Hall, because, you know, his spirit inspired me, and I'm constantly, you know, listening to back to the basics of philosophy, science, and religion, you know, because that's what inspired it. But it's just the whole aspect of these hands, you know. And we have these saying, you know, like, oh, freaking nobody put these hands on you. And yes, because we can do a lot of good and a lot of ill will, you know, with these hands. Think about it. We can pick things up. What was the Stanley Kubrick movie, you know, with the monkeys, and they had the whole
Odyssey, Space Odyssey, 2001.
Yeah, Space Odyssey, yes. Like, that opening scene was very telling, because I remember at first you had those little apes/monkeys, you know, and you know how they're fighting. Then one goes and touched the little black, I forget the actual name, but the little black slab. So then, you know, he gets that intellectual stuff, you know, he gets the intellectual knowing, you know, pretty much like how the Freemasons, you know, would say, you know, and then he got that gnosis. So then what does he do? He takes his hands, which they had hands, you know, the whole time, but they didn't have the mindset, held the intellect to equate and put the two together. So then he takes his hands, he picks up a bone, then he smashes another bone. So then it's that it's his brain firing off like oh man, this could he'll be changing. So then what does he do? He gets back, and then of course like he'll gets into that freaking scuffle, and then he uses the bone to pretty much beat the other little monkey. He'll just showing the power that we have. And yes, there are for other lower forms of life that have hands, but they don't have this too. They also don't have this. So it's not really just the hands, it's this right here that's starting off, and then the heart too. Those three components right there are what grants us that responsibility, and also too what holds us held accountable, not just by holding ourselves accountable, but held accountable under natural law. Because with knowledge comes responsibility, with heart-based intelligence comes responsibility, and too with these hands come responsibility, and we have to be responsible in what we create with these hands, based on how we feel, based on the general principle on how we think. And a lot of people still don't know that, because they're using their hands to misuse and abuse and install trauma in people, sadly their loved ones, sadly how close members. And then they're also using these hands to pick up things and start wars. They're using these hands to destroy nature. They're using these hands to destroy each other. And they've never really sat down and grasped this concept. It's like, if we didn't have hands, how much could we really get by fucking life? Right. Like, we've seen people, who are born with certain, disabilities, and they don't have hands. Just imagine how much harder life would be if we did not have our hands. You couldn't even open doors. Like, you would have to learn to use your feet, like some people have, but it would drastically change things,
But you could still align your mind and your heart and find that unity consciousness and have that proper action, which is basically this is what we're talking about, unity consciousness, having everything where there's no contradictions of, from the, first cosmic law principle of your mind, your thoughts, going down to your emotions and what you fucking care about. How are you operating off of? Is your heart activated? Do you love yourself and all that good stuff, And then you got that, proper fucking action. And yes, the fact that we do have, this integrated neocortex and all that stuff means that we do have, more responsibility than others. And we do experience karmic law a lot more than others, It's just what it is. It's just universal law shit.
Yeah.
These hands, man, shit.
Yeah. Hell. And then too, the neocortex, just having that right there in and of itself, grants us the ability to not react, but to respond, how to take in, how proper information, so it can be how discerned, so we can come up with a reasonable, how form of true intelligence, compared to, our fellow, lesser beings and consciousness. Yes, they may have a neocortex, but it is not as developed as ours, is. So, he'll having that region of the brain is very critical, because that right there is what gives us the ability to become aware of our own behavior. Most animals are not even aware of their own behaviors, and that's why you're right. And like, you ever seen a dog see itself in the mirror? Like, it'll start barking because it thinks it's another dog that's there. Monkeys and elephants, and a few animals from the monkey kingdom are the ones who actually realize that that's them in the mirror. 90% or 95% of the animals will react in an animalistic way, because like, man, there's another animal that's there's another animal that's in my territory, and I've actually put a dog in front on the mirror, and her face, like, she would start making like weird faces, because she didn't like she couldn't understand that like that's her freaking that she's seeing.
Mm.
But it's something that people actually need to go and research and study because, so many people think that we are just animals. It's like, no, we're not, man. Like, freaking, have you seen how animals act like in the wild? Like we have so much more capacity, we have so much more to us, yes, there are animals, who have a certain emotional hell intelligence that can be far more past than we are,
Like
like
dolphins.
dogs. Yes. Like, dogs can be very hell emotional and can vibe off your hell emotional hell intelligence. And then we also know there are some animals, like lions who only display those hell emotions to, hell to their own, family, hell or kingdom. And hell, you get too close to them and boy, you're gonna be lunch, but hey, that's the, hell freaking that's the fight or flight, hell stimulus response. But then too, hell just having that neocortex right there in and of itself is possibly the greatest gift because that right there gives us how the free will, how the consciousness, how the ability to become how aware of ourselves, the ability to become aware of our hell environment, the ability to map out and remember things, the ability to store information, which I know storing information is not really in the neocortex, but it's connected to that part too, because you have to recall that. Then therefore, the neocortex is critical. Just all of those things that make us, that make us who we are. People really take that for granted, and we see it in today's day and age. Just based on how people, are acting, and it's very sad because the human potential could be so much more. It could be so much more greater,
Yeah.
than what it is now.
Doesn't it make your third eye cry? Pineal
Man,
gland included for
yeah.
humans. I don't know about other animals, but as far as like that secreting DMT or whatever, I don't know if other animals can experience that or whatever. But yeah, I mean, like everything is sentient life. Forget about this whole vegan talk. Like, oh, what about like ascension life for animals? Well, like like trees and all that stuff is as well, but on different degrees. That doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into the vegan talk, but it's like I see everything as everything is going to ascend. Basically, this is all
Yeah.
just energy getting recycled and recycled. And
Well,
there's
there is
lower.
one thing that's not going to ascend, and sadly, that's majority of the humans. They're going to keep coming back to a life form like this. And yeah, I would agree with you. Is the way I see it too is all life forms is going to ascend. Now, mind you, it's like once you get to our level of plane, our level health density, to ascend is going to be so much more harder because there's something here that needs to be learned. There's something here, that you have to experience. So it's like, the way that I view animals is if we can show them the love and the care and their respect that they deserve, the same love and care and respect that we will, show ourselves, who knows how maybe in their ascension process, that soul, how that spirit may come back in the form of a human being based on how much vibration and energy and love that we showed it and gave to it.
Yeah, interesting. Wow, I never heard it said like that before. Thank you for that. That's cool.
Yeah, because and the reason why I thought about this one time is because I was living with my best friend and he had a pit bull and she was very emotional and and I was like we say her dog can read off our emotion, but man, he showed that dog so much love and I showed her so much love that how that when she passed, freaking, it was something in me, her friend that was like, I hope that in her health ascension process, she can at least come back as something, higher in her, elevation, possibly a human, because man, that dog was love, man, she was spoiled. She got her belly rubbed freaking every day. And,
One of the fellas.
yeah. Hell, I cried when she passed away, man.
Yeah,
But it
definitely.
shows the connection, how that we can build with other forms of life.
Yeah, right. For sure, yeah. I feel you, man. Uh, did you want to get back on the music tip, or are you good?
Oh yeah. Hell,
I
we
had
can
a
talk
couple more
about
questions
the
for you
music.
because I
Yeah.
was kind of curious, especially you growing up in that good old dirty South. How much did like Goody Mob and Outkast really put your area on the map?
Mm.
Did you notice anything like before or after type of thing, or
Let's see. I want to say Goody Mob and Outkast came out around, that was it
early
93,
90s?
94? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was early 90s. Come out of fact, you remember Ludacris?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He was a DJ on one of the radio shows, Chris Level Level and Poon Daddy. And this was
Really?
when Outkast, yeah. Before he, got into the music. But yeah, how Outkast
Damn,
and
yeah.
Goody Mob put Atlanta on the map, because we had the clubs and stuff like that. How that's a whole different topic. But yeah, how when they came out, what Southern Playlist, the Cadillac is funky music, that right there put us on the map. And mind you, I was still too young to kind of listen to that music, but my dad
Yeah.
did have that album. But yeah, because we was living over there by Banneker High School, and
Mm,
and I have some good memories because he'll go into Welcome All Park because I played sports a lot, and people would always be bumping, Outkast and Goody Mob because I don't think before them it was really anyone else out there, because later you had what the Brat and what held Jermaine Dupri, was freaking, hell, that was a whole different, beast. But yeah, man, for Outkast, it inspired other people to actually show off their art, show off their talent, show off their skill, because
mm,
like I said before them, before those two groups, I don't think there was really other or really any other Atlanta rappers, or at least how they had got a big time. And I remember, dude, for Outkast would always be played, that Soul Food would always be played. As a matter of fact, and when I went and bought the clean version, oh, I love that song, man. I loved it. You know, uh, CeeLo Green, before he sold out.
mm,
Uh,
right. Yeah.
and what Big Gip, how Big Gip was always on the lyrics. What Timo always brought that straight energy.
Mm,
Cujo, I would say Cujo was probably the most conscious, out of the four.
yeah.
And then CeeLo, he always had like the good hooks. He always had like the good
Yeah.
choruses. He just had that voice that kind of resonated with people because it's like
Mhm.
his voice. You can kind of hear the kind of soul, like the older soul music, because he can do like choir and stuff like that. So it was
Yeah.
like, it was like a good formation because you had like four different. It was almost like the
Mm,
four. It was almost like the four elements, who came together.
mm.
And it's like with Big Boy and the Outcast. I'm sorry, Big Boy and yeah, Dre.
2000.
Dre always had those lyrics, but Big
Yeah.
Boy always had a cleanness. He
Like
had
your
like just
classic rapper style, kind of.
yeah, his style was different, man. Because he could kind of rap fast and then kind of rap slow, and he could do the tongue twist and stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, man. Hell, they put Atlanta on the map, man. Because that was when everyone like wanted to, say, I'm from Atlanta."
Oh wow, damn. And
Yeah,
then
it was like,
ATL afterwards, all that shit. Yeah. West is
yeah,
fucking history, man. Yeah.
because then fucking, it's like they sold the seeds for Pastor Troy, for Lil Jon, and all them stuff.
Right. Fuck yeah. Wow. Yeah. So fast forwarding, I mean, I forget who I spoke to about this, but they're meant, and I think they were, referencing what they learned from a documentary. As far as this whole like the trap music and that whole scene and where that stemmed from, and kind of like, and then that you got the mumble rappers over that and all this stuff, and you and I and other people are kind of shaking our heads like, is there like a
Like, what is this
devolution of
garbage?
this art form kind of thing? But what struck me as odd and just like fascinating, like really wow, is that I guess like, and is this true? And have you heard anything of the sort that it was about, still stemming off of that booty worship or whatever, and it was basically music that they were playing in like strip clubs, this trap music and shit like that. Have you
Yeah.
heard anything like that? Or
Well, Harold, Harold, 2 minutes ago, hell, I mentioned the clubs. Yeah, hell, Atlanta has a lot of strip clubs, and I'm like
Mm.
a lot. And mind you, hell, I've never gone to one, but
Ever in your
thankfully,
life? I know a few,
nah,
but I cut that shit out. Yeah, forget that.
nah.
Like a decade.
It just wasn't really my taste. Yeah, it just wasn't my my vibe. But yeah, yeah, how Atlanta is known for its strip clubs. Because you had it's like when
Jeez.
Jeezy came on the map. You had Ti. They brought in the whole trap music. The whole selling. Hell doing was selling drugs. Hell talking down hell women. And yeah, hell, freaking that blew up because people thought that that's what like the whole black culture was, and it was very different than where hell the roots were coming, because hell like mid 90s, that's not really what the music hell was about. But hell, once we got to like the 2000s, like 2001, 2002, then that's when those seeds started to be planted, and then yeah, it blew up because you had the crunk music and you had the the uh trap music, and
And
both
on our
those
side,
styles.
on the West Coast, we had the hyphy movement. Did you hear about that
Yeah,
shit? Like
yeah,
in like literal songs that say like "go dumb, go stupid" kind of thing, and like, yeah, it's from like I think the legendary E40 and that kind of stuff. But anyways, man.
yeah. Hold on, hell, I'm about to go wake my roommate up real quick. All
Okay,
right.
yeah, I get it. But yeah, that West Coast scene is something, huh? Um, yeah, 2002. Basically was already in junior college. I was well into the conscious underground hip hop scene since like a junior in high school. I had a really cool friend that opened the door to a lot of shit, and she actually was friends with some local rappers trying to do their thing, but kind of biting off styles of other local legendary talent. And as far as like big groups, kind of like the Wu-Tang, I don't know if you've ever heard of like Living Legends. That's been kind of like the underground West Coast Wu-Tang, but I guess more a different style and this and that, a little less gangster. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I
Now
learned a lot.
there is a song you play in a few of your mixes. It's got a fast beat. I think this is the Living Legends or something like that. It's like we will not sit back, and it's got this badass beat to it, and it's like we will not sit back and let something happen to our black people. Hell, is that
Oh,
them?
that's a Freestyle Fellowship.
Okay, yeah, dude, I love that song.
We
I love
will
that song.
not tolerate.
Yeah,
Guys were musical magicians, and how they could just like flow off of the beat and stuff. Like kind of like that old scat style of jazz back in the fucking day. And these guys were
yeah,
awesome. And yeah, those were. I think their first album, even that song came off of an album. It was from like 1989, something like that. So, or in the
dang that.
90s, that whole Project
Wow.
Glow, Los Angeles collective is something else. But yeah, man. But back to your neck of the woods, or not. Well, as far as like, so you mentioned Dead Prez, and I'm sure peeped some KRS-One, early on. But were there like certain types of concepts, or even like specific line or lyric or this and that really kind of stuck in your head and became like that seed of truth for you, and kind of helped guide you out of the kind of bullshit minutia that a lot of us just kind of don't really resurface out of?
Yeah, and you brought up Dead Preds, and I brought them up, earlier. So now I can kind of go into my spiel
Get
about,
them, yeah.
yeah. So we're talking about 2001 ish. Hell, I was 10th grade. This would have been, let's see, right after 9/11, and hell, mind you, Dead Preds first album, hell, Let's Get Free, is more tailored toward black people freeing themselves from the mental slavery.
Right, yeah.
Now there are some lyrics in that CD that I don't help agree with, and mind you, like the first opening is Wolves, and it has what is his name, Omali Yoshitella, And he says some good stuff, but then he says some, like some pretty off the walls, stuff.
Mm.
And mind you, he is a fucking socialist. And that's the one thing about that album is it does have some kind of socialistic, like undertones to it, and it have some kind of revolutionary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So hell, me being, like around 14 years old, hell being around predominantly white people, I had to make sure that I didn't fall for that whole, black people go back to Africa programming,
Mm.
because there is a lot of that in some of the whole black conscious music, how black people should only be worrying about black people, and not extending that love toward all cultures. So what I had to do, which I didn't even become aware of this until later on fucking life, is I had to take that album and what I was listening to and then equate it with reality. Because
Yeah.
if you listen to the album, you can definitely go down the wrong path,
Mm.
because
Yeah. I know what you
because
mean.
yeah, like it does have some good lyrics in there, but then too, it does have some kind of socialistic, like how black people should just, how go back to, how to Africa and just live kind of like our ancestors did too. So I kind of had to, separate myself from the bad lyrics and just take in the good. And then too, he does have a lot of Huey P. Newton, how talks in there. And I'm
Mm.
not really a fan of the Black Panther Party. I'm not. And the reason for that is because they was backed by communists, and that's what.
Damn, man.
Yes, the black do
Damn, I know that.
do communism had it do communists and communism had its hands and its roots in the civil rights movement and in the Black Panther Party. Yes, because remember Huey P. Newton and Angela Davis, who was a known communist. She was registered with with the Communist Party. What's his name, Gus Miles or Gus Davis. He ran for president in the United States of America. He never won, but people forget that in the '60s, like communism was big. So
Yeah.
yeah, Huey P. Newton, he read all the works on revolutionary. And of course, when you're talking hell about revolutionary, you're pretty much talking about socialism. You're talking about Marxism. You're talking about communism, from its exoteric form.
Yeah, like Che Guevara.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So
That's fun.
so Huey P. Newton, he said one time that he met Mao, which I can't verify this, but I do know that he did go to China and he was able to meet some higher ups in the Chinese Communist Party. And mind you, this was at a time when the Chinese Communist Party was literally murdering millions of their own people. So when this information came back to the to the Black Panthers, to the people in the United States of America, majority of the people who was in the civil rights movement and held the Black Panther Party would not acknowledge it because they were saying oh, it's just capitalistic lies. But in actuality it was true, because we do know that Mao murdered millions of people. And then too, held the Black Panther Party and Huey P. Newton, were tied to Cuba and Fidel Castro. If you really do the research, you will see how the Black Panther parties were literally in bed with socialists and communists.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Man, fuck.
So that's why I say I'm not really a fan of them. And then too, the whole civil rights movement, the whole point of civil rights means the word civil comes from the Latin word civilis, meaning from the people. So you're saying that the people are the ones who grant you the right. So the whole problem with the civil rights movement, which I'm not going to sit up here and deny and say there wasn't some good things that came out of it. Yes, there was. But then too, their main focus was, big daddy government can rescue us. And that's my whole issue was it, with them is they put too much power and trust and faith into the government rather than trying to put trust and power and faith into the individual and start to become knowledgeable and know yourself and know truth so you can become a better man or a better woman so you can help make your environment and society better. So
Right, yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up. But yeah, the whole dead prayer stuff, I really had to sit down because I was on the verge of being one of those black people who, who dislike white people. But then I had to look at my reality and say, like, hey, man, how these white people are,
You were surrounded by.
are yeah, and they're breaking bread with me, man. So these lyrics and what I'm hearing isn't equating, with reality. Because
Mm,
I do know some people, who were listening to that same music and they would have been, had that black person who hates white people. So hell,
yeah.
that was a big change for me. And
Mm,
I highly encourage people, to go listen to some of those lyrics, because what Dead Prayers, Police State, that opening, that right there planted seeds in my mind.
damn.
And I'm going to read the opening. And mind you, I'm not going to read it like, hell, it really is, but it's called Dead Preds, the Police State, Let's Get Free. These are words by Omali Yeshahitela. And mind you, he is a socialist, but he still says some good things, hell, about the
Mm,
state. He
mm,
says, you have the emergence in human society of this thing that's called the state. What is the state? The state is organized bureaucracy. It is the police department. It is the army. It is the navy. It is the prison system. It is the courts. And what you have. This is the state. This is the state. It is a repressive organization. But the state, gee, well, you've got to have the police because the police. I'm sorry. If there were no police, just look around. You'd be killing yourselves. You'd be killing each other if there was no police. But in reality, the police become necessary in a human society only at the junction in human society where it is split between those who have and those who ain't got. And mind you, he gets very hell emotional with it. He was like, "You got to have the police," and like it's possibly the best opening to any song. And that right there planted seeds in my mind.
wow.
Just because I was young and I was stupid, but I listened to that song hundreds of times. And
Right.
yeah, that right there possibly planted more seeds in my mind than any other song that opened right there.
Wow. Damn, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, reminds me of the KRS One song back in the BDP, Boogie Down Productions. Those good old days when he was addressing the police, not the whoop whoop. That's the sound of them, but way
Yeah.
before back when he was saying something like, "You were put here, you were sent here to protect us, but who protects us from you?" You know, you get it
Yep.
that one, like. Who's holding the police accountable for that shit, and and who actually recognizes the historicity of the entire, trajectory of how the police force came about in this country. I mean, weren't the first sheriffs and like police officers, the overseers, officer overseer, that kind of shit? Weren't they paid bounty hunters to hunt down runaway slaves?
Yeah. The
Right?
slave
That kind of
patrol.
shit.
Yeah. Yep.
No, but
And that's what a lot of people don't want to, face. A lot of people don't want to look at, you have the
hey, the police
dumbass
murdered
people on the
Jesus
right.
too, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I know, man. Like it's, yeah. If you believe the story and if you believe how the story, because that's exactly what hell it is, the story. Who are the ones who murdered Jesus? It wasn't the Pharisees. It wasn't the Sadducees. It wasn't the Sanhedrin. It wasn't Pontius Pilate. It was the order followers. It was the Roman centurions, man. It's always been the Roman centurions. It's always been the order followers, man. And like people can't grasp this concept, It's always the order followers who bring in tyranny. I mean, just look at what's going on in China right now, with all the protests, you know?
Yeah, fuck, they got drones and shit now too.
Yeah. But you know what? I hope those people are ready for what's going to come because that can spoil over into something even greater than what the Tiananmen Square was. Because
Oh
the
yeah,
Communist Party is going to come out hard. Yeah, they're going to come out hard. And you know what? Freedom is worth dying for,
yeah.
you know? And I hope the individuals around the world can see what's happening over there. Because if China can come together to stand up hell against tyranny, then why the fuck can we not do it here or anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Corey Angela actually uploaded a video recently, even today, talking about that, and kind of actually, I think he did mention that there is like an uprising going on over there. So
Oh yeah, the videos that I saw, man, like people were going livid, and like rightly so. I mean, like I'm like picking up the barriers and like beating the beating the order follower with them, and I'm like, that's like it almost brought a tear to my eye because I'm like, you know what, it's fucking about time,
yeah, right. Especially
it's
over
about
there.
fucking time. Yeah,
You don't
like
even
if
have
they
like,
could do it, then why can't we not do it, man?
yeah. Damn, man. Uh, has
I
there
do
been
have.
any other musical genre outside of hip hop that kind of has that, raw conviction, word sound power type of rebel
Oh
music
yeah.
attitude?
The old school reggae, the old school reggae, man. I love that, especially in like my mid 20s, because I was constantly toking. I was constantly,
Oh
lighting
yeah,
up a spliff. I was constantly burning a blunt. But yeah, the 60s, 70s, and early 80s reggae to me, because it actually had that message of Hell Babylon, like of trying to free yourself, like of trying to, empower others. It wasn't just, a beat. It's almost like, we all know who Bob Marley is, but that music right there just puts off a certain energy. It's very uplifting. And my favorite reggae group is called the Help Tones, and they have this song called Mystery Babylon, and it's just a few words, but they're talking about how the Western culture has came in and polluted their minds because they say with Mystery Babylon, now you come and give our children worms to intoxicate their mind, because that's what it's really all about, is intoxicating, people's mind. But then he says, Rasta don't drink wine, meaning how we're not going to put up, with y'all shit. And the
don't
chorus is just, yeah. And how the chorus is just, have Mystery Babylon. And then they have another song. And mind you, like, both of these songs are in two of my top five, have most favorite songs of all time. It's called Freedom to the People. And it's just them saying, for God's sake, bring more freedom to the people, because, Jamaica in one point of time wasn't really as westernized, hell,
Yeah.
around that time. And when you see foreigners coming in, and how they're bringing in trade, how they build, bringing in stuff and they building stuff, that they're bringing in their religion and they're bringing in their ideologies and they're bringing in their toxicities too. So hell, that's why I've always kind of liked the old school reggae, because it was more about freedom. Like
Yeah.
hell, it was more about power. It was more about, hell, standing up, to this Western, Babylonian control system. So yeah, hell, reggae for me has always been, one of the genres to, hell, plant seeds. And then two, you can understand, hell, you can easily understand her reggae lyrics. You can easily,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, and for me, it's been kind of difficult, and it's interesting. I mean, I'm going to be talking about like heavy metal. For me, it's kind of hard to follow the lyrics sometimes. As far as
yeah,
like talking about something easy, like that's not always easy, and it's really interesting how many people in like the One Great Network, for example, like they're actually like musicians of that genre, like singers even, like it's
yeah,
it's really interesting.
yeah. Because I would always like to, listen to the lyrics or find the lyrics online to see what they are actually saying. Because
Yeah.
that's one thing that hell I always tell parents is you need to go and read the lyrics to these songs that you're letting your kids, listen to.
Like even like poppy things that they like themselves, like that one radio hit a decade or two ago. All the little kids with the pumped up kicks, you better run, better run.
Yeah.
Outrun my bullets? Are you fucking kidding me? Outrun my bullet. Yeah, okay. And then we have all these school shootings and all that other program, false flag fuckery. Yeah, it makes a lot of fucking sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Keep rocking those fucking, brain uh, numbing and, brainwashing type of melodic tones. Yeah, it sounds great. Of course, that's why they recruit the people. Again, like I mentioned, like, read the lyrics, like you say, right?
Yeah.
It
A
ain't
matter
that
of
hard.
fact,
Shit.
hell, there's just one song that I've heard so many times because when I'm, freaking calling games at tournaments, hell, the teams are playing music, but there's this song called Right Foot Creep. And the opening lyrics is right foot creep when I'm rolling with that heat. So I mean, mind you, if you break that down, he's creeping because he has a gun on his right hip. Because you have more weight. You know how guns, how depending on what gun it is, it can be heavy. But then the next line, he's like something. Oh, the devil gonna see me. He's talking about doing a drive by or murdering somebody. And I'm like, why are we letting these 12-year-old girls, 13, 14-year-old girls, listen to this? And the parents are just like sitting back, on their phones. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, is no one listening to the lyrics? Like the dude's talking about murdering somebody.
That was a tight beat, though, yo. Shit.
Yep.
Think about the beats, man. But
Oh, the beat is fire. I ain't gonna lie. The beat is fire, but the lyrics are straight garbage. Like
yeah, right.
straight garbage, man. Like people just don't have those lyricist skills, because that was an art form. How that was a talent. Like you actually had to think, to either freestyle or to write it down like on paper. How nowadays people don't have that, man. Because you literally just put a fucking catchy beat. Yeah. Yeah, you just put a fucking catchy beat that sounds good, and that beat gets stuck in someone's head, and they just let the fucking lyrics go by into their subconscious mind.
Yeah. And artists don't even have to they're like making up words and just like mumbling now sometimes, or like they're just talking about the latest designer drug that they're getting their fucking lean on or whatever the fuck, and like little kids are like, yeah, look at that, I want to do that. Get 20 tattoos on their face, like that's what's up now. We got the rainbow dread colored locked hair and all this stuff. More image, great. Wow, this is fucking evolution at its highest right here. Fucking keep going at it, and let's watch the clown shit show, like burn itself to the fucking ground is how it seems to me, its own trajectory,
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems to be like this black hole. It's just like, yeah, can't get enough of this shit.
Hell, one time I was on the softball field, right? And this girl, like, she was just rapping to herself, and I heard what she was saying. She was like fucking Percocets, Klonopins, Oxycontin, and I was like, do you know what that stuff, like even is? She was like, no, I heard it in a song, and I was like, oh gosh, like fucking that's the problem. Like you're talking about prescription drugs, and she didn't even know exactly what they were. I'm like, oh gosh, because those aren't drugs that I would advise anyone to be on, not talking from personal experience myself, but
But it's easy, like social media, whatever, you hear stories, like we can learn a shitload. We can learn lifetimes just from observing other people's mistakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really ain't that hard. It ain't no ancient Chinese secret. There's not even a hard science to it, unlike the true science of life that you can be a devout student for the rest of your life, as far as like self-mastery and learning the codes of consciousness through natural law, and like, yeah, that is the fucking science of life, in your own fucking personal gnosis, and how you're going to navigate your own consciousness in the reality outside of that. But,
those are the things that are going to destroy or dampen or decrease your consciousness, Because, mind you, hell, I had my time with prescription pills. It didn't last long, but it was just something hell about that just kind of always made me feel off. That and alcohol, man, it just, plus too, and also too, hell, like getting too damn high to where you just got to go pass out, it just always made me feel, I know we've all been there.
Fuck yeah, I dialed down the cannabis consumption big time. You know, much more of a functional stoner, so that works for me. But
Yeah,
silly.
yeah, yeah. Because
But I hear you.
back
Just
in
like, are you talking about like what's that one like? Something that people take a lot for just for like studying.
what you mean, bud?
Yeah, some kind of prescription things or
Well, you had Percocets, which
oh yeah,
was
that's yeah. Fuck.
yeah, like pain relievers or
Adderall,
muscle
that's the one I was thinking
relaxers.
about. I kept wanting to say
Adderalls.
adrenaline, but Adderall, yeah, it kind of gives you a
Yeah,
drink.
yeah,
But it
it's
makes gives
supposed
you this
to.
like wiry feeling. Does it's kind of like what you were kind of alluding to earlier, just like yeah, man, kind of weird.
I was never a fan of Adderall.
Yeah, I
Just
feel
because like sometimes the shit don't do nothing, but it was just something there with the pills, man, that was just like it just made you feel some form of freaking uneasiness because if you ever taken like a fucking muscle relaxer, I mean, and then you take double of what you're supposed to, because I've done that before, and you just like literally, just sitting there drooling on yourself, and you can only turn your head left and right. It's like I don't want to be in that state to where I lose functionality of my body. You
yeah, I
know,
thought like we're supposed to have fun, like you want to get high and do something fun, not just,
yeah.
veg out like like
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, I was so dumb one time. I took two Klonopins, and I went to work. Within
oh
15
damn,
minutes, they had to call my dad to come pick me up, and they thought that I was drunk. And I was
damn,
slurring my speech. I was drooling, like I couldn't
damn.
walk down the aisles, like at Kroger.
Oh
And I'm
wow.
just like, "Bleh, bleh," like let it go. Fucking that was the dumb shit. How fucking that you would do when you was young.
Hmm.
Because hell, I was in an area where pills were highly accessible. I mean, like
Jeez.
highly.
Wow. Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Damn.
But you learn from your mistakes.
Right? Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. You live and you learn. Hopefully, you fucking don't learn the hard way over and over and over again and all that shit, man. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little. I mean, yeah, it's kind of similar all across the map, at least in North America, I suppose. I don't want to assume anything, but I'm trying to segue back to the whole music scene because I wanted to ask you, as far as like being from the South and this and that, and growing up and being a fan of especially you saw the whole West Coast, East Coast bias feud, whatever the fuck, as much as it was programmed or whatever, like, you know, that all aside, what, from your like neutral position, I guess, in a sense, like, how did you see like the different types of styles and levels of consciousness from either coast? And you can, for generalization sakes, right? But anything
Hmm.
interesting that you observed from that?
I would say that the East Coast, like New York, they had like more of lyrics. When Biggie came out, it was straight lyrics. Dang, you know who Big L is?
Fuck yeah.
Hell, wasn't he
Ebonics,
from? Yeah, hell, wasn't he from? I said, was he
he was
from New
from New
York?
York.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Harlem,
His
I think.
lyrics, yeah, his lyrics was straight killer. Like freaking anybody out of the Bronx, Staten Island,
Mhm.
like freaking even here, what early Wu Tang man, like their lyrics was just killing, man. It was on
Raw as
point.
fuck and yeah.
Yeah,
All these cats were hungry as right too, and
yeah.
gritty. Yeah, man.
It was just straight raw lyrics, man. It was just straight talent. Because hell, when Biggie hit the scene, it's like he was different, because he was a big boy, it sounded like he had asthma, but he was still killing it, man.
Yeah.
Like just straight killing it. And like freaking no one was like, well, no one had seen that before, because it's like hell, when you see a rapper, you don't imagine this big dude, 300 something pounds, like literally sound like he's about to have a heart attack and like can literally spit bars just like fucking no other. And hell, the freaking that was the thing is when Biggie hit the scene, his bars were just on point. Everyone else coming out of fucking New York, that shit was on point. But the East Coast, I'm sorry, the West Coast, they brought a whole different dynamic because it was more flashy. It's like hell, when Snoop them came in, hell, that was right after freaking E40, with Dr. Dre. They had a different style because they was really talking about shit that they had experienced. Because everybody knew about New York. Because before rap, you had like R&B. You had like the soul music. Like you had all that shit. Like New York was already on the map before fucking rap. But hell, the West Coast, you had fucking LA and shit, but they're different style because they was actually talking about shit that they was doing. Like the whole, I don't want to say like the whole gangster culture because I don't think they was as gangster as they claimed to be. I think it
No.
was a lot of hype, but the gangster culture was fucking real,
Yeah.
to a certain degree. And even though they may not have been living it, other motherfuckers could resonate with it who was living that shit. And mind you, it was a sad place to be in and a bad place to be in because we all know where how what gang culture how sends you. You're either going to end up dead or possibly in prison. But it was something, a means for a lot of people to relate to because a lot of hell, the people who was following that shit didn't have any form of influence. Hell, freaking, they didn't have that strong father figure hell in their lives. Hell, they didn't have their strong male figure, like in their lives. So when the whole West Coast music came out, that gave them something that they can relate to. And mind you, we all know what the consequences of that was. But to me, the whole West Coast shit, it was more flashy because they was actually talking about stuff that they had either lived or seen, compared to like the East Coast, it was just straight lyrics. And if you are a good lyricist, you don't have to rap about something, that you've seen or that you witnessed.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Interesting, man. Yeah. I see what you mean, and yeah, it falls in line with the similar pattern that I've heard. Along this journey of life throughout the years, and holy shit, man. Just looking at the time, we're good. You brought up some good points, man. Fuck. Uh, uh, when was like the first time you heard, hip hop from like the UK or even Australia and Canada? And did you ever find it interesting that, they just never seemed, no one from those places never seemed to make it big or really made it on to the radar, especially like out in America for the majority of people? Have you noticed
Yeah.
anything like that? There's dope ass fucking artists from all those places, actually.
Yeah. There are some good lyricists. The problem with me is whenever I've heard males, with that straight freaking English dialect has always kind of been like vomit to my ears. So hell, that's my condition that
Really?
that I've had to kind of like get out of. But there are some straight lyricists. It's like now I can listen to it, but like 5-10 years ago, man, like just even trying to watch some of David Icke videos, it was just
Really?
something, hell, forgot about that tone and that dialect that always turned me off. But that was my own hell emotional mind control.
Right, yeah, but I
But
think I think it really is like an Americentric thing that a lot of people have this mental blockage of that, or even on the
yeah,
flip, like they fucking they're head over heels about it, like, I mean, I'll admit, I find that accent pretty damn sexy, when a woman's talking or that kind of
yo,
stuff.
yeah. When a woman's talking, yeah, I find it sexy as fuck. But
Or
when I hear
just
that same accent from a
whatever,
dude,
both.
I'm like, dude, like just blow my brains out because that shit is fucking like it's hurting my ability to think, you know. Yeah, when a woman's talking with that freaking English accent, yeah, it's sexy as hell. But yeah, when I hear the dude, it's like someone clawing at a fucking chalkboard or
Oh
strangling a
man.
damn cat, man. It's
Oh,
the complete opposite. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that comes down to our conditioning and but
yeah, man. So
yeah.
I want to get back to what you were talking about because you brought up a really good point in regards to like people that especially men who didn't have like let's both men and women who didn't have a father figure, and like they come across something of the sort through some kind of hip hop rap artist and this and that, and I mean, wouldn't you know, a lot of hip hop and rap has been quite demeaning towards women, over
Yeah.
the decades. I mean, let's not deny that, you know.
Yep.
And what's your take on that kind of dilemma, or whatever you want to call it?
Well, when I got started early in my journey, when I was in the conspiracy stuff, I remember coming across some information that I could not verify. Something about like in the early 90s, there was this, meeting of like people who were very high up in the music industry, and they wanted to take like rap in a certain, direction. And how, mind you, in the 80s, in the late 70s, in like the black community, we had movies like Superfly, the whole fucking Gangster Daddy, Pimpin' and Hoeing. It's like those seeds had already been planted. And the
Yeah.
whole drug culture, like the whole crack cocaine and shit that, pretty much hit the black community, freaking much, like a plague. So if you look at like the time frame in which that started to the early 90s, you have roughly 15ish years. So that's pretty much enough time for one generation to advance to help another generation. So then two, you had the ones who were young at the time be raised up, to where they didn't have their dad. So then therefore you can bring this means of mind control and influence in toward them to help traumatize them, so how they can start that cycle. So you already kind of had the mistreatment of women, because what you had movies like Superfly, and like so many other just like black propaganda, just straight garbage, calling women, have derogatory terms, like freaking not, treating them how they are supposed to be treated, and just like being just straight right immoral to them. And then two, you had, of course, the whole drug culture, and a lot of women suffer from that too, because they lost their husbands, they lost their sons to that whole, that whole freaking drug culture. So you had that trauma that was being held for installed. And then two, a lot of women did get hooked onto those drugs. And then two, a lot of women would start selling their bodies to get the means to get those drugs. So you kind of see like this whole freaking degradation, that's like being layered. Oh damn. How it's being layered on top of each other. So then you get to the whole mid 90s and the whole gangster rap. It's like that was really just the action form to get us to pretty much start taking hell each other out with the whole gang culture. The mistreatment of women got even worse because like
That's
then.
fatherless behavior,
Yeah, because a lot of the fathers had been in prison or had been taken out, either from the whole drug culture, and if they didn't get taken out then, and then they show hell, we're gonna get taken out in the whole gang culture. Because people forget, man, like the early 90s, like the shit was bloody. Like the shit was bloody. Like gang culture was fucking bloody. Like you had motherfuckers just getting murked, taken out, drive-by shootings. Like just go do the research. Like you had motherfuckers being dropped. Hell, like it was just a complete not caring for life. So, and it was predominantly a lot of males, and then two, a lot of those males will have sons. So then that forces the female to have to try to raise the son by herself, or marry the estate, and then two, it just continues the same cycle. It continues the same trauma, and then two, the whole mistreatment of women. When you don't have that strong father figure, that strong male aspect to help teach you hell about respect. Because any man who disrespects a woman, he does not have any respect for himself. And because he does not respect himself, then he's going to project that out and disrespect her. And that's what we saw back then. And that's what we still continue to see, today. And the whole booty worship, it got even worse, man. Because now you got a lot of males who are in such fucking disarray, in still in their form of trauma, still in their form of little boy, mentality. They think that by going out and getting pleasure and going out and getting some form of booty, that's somehow going to help alleviate their pain and they're suffering. When in actuality, what they are really suffering from is because they never had that strong parental father figure there to check them on their behavior, to treat them, with respect, and to teach them how to treat women.
Yeah,
And
like how
that's
a
what we
woman should
see.
be treated like he wants his mother to be treated.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So
Fuck, man.
yeah.
Well said. Fuck yeah. Yeah, the family dynamic is something, all right. And when it's someone out of the picture, it just, puts a lot of stress. And like a lot of single mothers out there, it's like they got to be more into their yang energy just to compensate for the lack of the father figure in this and that. And it's like they have to compensate for so much already raising a kid. It's like, yeah, it's hard to keep a fucking balance.
Yeah.
It's not easy to say either, man. Like, fuck, yo. So many negative
Yeah.
feedback loops from all these things. And yeah, man, it's like I always refer to the whole, the CIA, I call it the 80s crack pipe demolition of black communities, kind of, thank you, presented by CIA.
Yeah.
It's like,
And
and I
sadly,
learned that through hip hop, plenty
oh
of
yeah.
artists were talking about that, trying to blow the whistle on that stuff, and just like street journalism, like, yeah, put it in lyrics, kind of encrypt that shit where it's really for the heads that know what's up to fucking get a clue and, try to flip the script in some kind of way, or, subtract themselves out of being part of the fucking problem type of thing. And like, hey, brother man, like, you need to put that pipe down type of shit. Like, Uncle Sam put that shit in your hand. Well, actually, it was you. Take responsibility for that shit. Cut that shit out. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because when you look at it, like, crack could have only been created in a fucking lab. I mean, because look at how you have to make that shit up. Like who the hell in the ghetto would have stumbled, hell across that? No, man, that shit was made fucking in a lab, by people fucking in government. And then how they took that secret, well, hell, I shouldn't say secret, how they took it and then, how taught that method to, how multiple people in the whole fucking gang wars, and then they start giving them guns and all this shit and pretty much like, hey, go fucking go do your worst.
Right? Fucking yeah. What else did I want to ask you real quick? Yeah, because I know, New Orleans isn't too far away. Not quite a stone's throw away, if you will. But as far as like the good old Big Easy, how much do you think the whole jazz scene over there had played an influence on like hip hop in general, or just in that southern region, if you will?
I'm not as familiar with jazz, but I do know a lot of artists have sampled like some of the early works of jazz. Now, you said New Orleans, right?
Who?
I said hell, did you bring up New Orleans?
Yeah, New Orleans. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hell, when you said that, hell, I was thinking of like the whole Master P,
Oh,
the whole Hot Boys, all that
all
garbage
right.
hell beforehand, yeah. Hell, fucking Lil Wayne, hell, Juvenile.
Damn. Yeah. Okay.
Make them say, yeah. But yeah,
They were
hell, I
based
do
in the Bay
know,
Area. They had
huh?
an interesting little scheme, and like they had people like sell their albums at my high school. Like funny, like these people selling gangster rap at like a predominantly white high school. It's just like funny shit sometimes. Like
Yeah, but
that was a way, a
hell,
means of them to get their shit out and without
yeah.
like signing on to a major record label deal.
Oh,
Because they had
dude,
like a distribution way of doing shit. It was tight, man.
man, you can go nowhere in the city of Atlanta and some of the outskirts without being in any park, a Walmart parking lot or like grocery store parking lot, and then someone like, "Hey, man, you check out my demo?" Like, dude,
Really?
like, yeah, yeah, like motherfuckers would just be hanging out that demo or trying to sell them like in the parking lot because that's how you got your music out,
Right?
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But to kind of
You
get
saw
back,
that a lot?
oh yeah, yeah, like yeah, it got
That's
so
cool.
bad to where like when a motherfucker would start walking up to you, you didn't know if he was trying to rob you or not. It's like, hey, it's like, dude, like, hey, keep your distance because,
Man.
sorry, hell, I'm broke now. I mean, like, Plus two, how you just walking up, fucking willy nilly, hell fucking hell you looking suspect, and I ain't, and I'm not bumping that new shit, dude. Like I can't vibe with it.
Yeah, right. Damn, yo. Yeah, that reminds me of funny little parody intermission type of thing of a album of just like, yeah, like kind of parodying these people. It's like people just walking around minding their own business, and like these people are so desperate to get their shit out. It's like, hey man, you like DVDs, you like this music, you gotta listen to this shit right now. So that's cool,
Yeah,
whatever. But there's a humble approach to it, it's like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but I understand there could be desperation of folks not being heard as much as they want to, or they're trying to make a living off of it, or like just trying to fucking eat a little bit off of it, you
yep.
know. I can understand that. But
And then
yeah, like
too, wait, hold on real quick. How we used to go to the black barber shops, like every Saturday. And I guarantee you, every time there will always be someone coming in, and they had a rack of DVDs, a rack of cassette tapes that they have burned, and hell, either trying to sell or trying to get have that music out. And hell, mind you, hell, I'm totally fine with that. Now mind you, it was illegal for man's law. How for you to burn a fucking DVD and try to sell, but hell,
right,
that's what
yeah,
motherfuckers did fucking back in the day. Like
right,
like
yeah,
like dude would have 200 something VHS tapes, or hell, how 1,000 fucking CDs, how a fucking hell was trying to sell. And this was way before the internet, man. What fucking that's what how motherfuckers did, hell, to get their shit out, or
yeah.
or hell, just to make some little extra money, you know.
Oh yeah, man. All right, I've asked enough questions, I think. As far as like, yeah, you had some ideas and things like that. I'm gonna ask like one more question later on, but was there anything else that you had noted for this discussion that you wanted to share with us?
Um, you kind of brought up earlier about the whole club music and the whole like gangster rap
Mm,
stuff, hell, for in the South. When Ti came around, fucking Tip changed it, man, because like he was kind of, how I mentioned how like the West Coast, rappers were talking about stuff that they had either seen or hell experienced. When Ti came, hell about, because he had actually lived a certain life, like freaking on Bankhead, and at the time Bankhead was fucking bad,
oh,
how now things may fucking change, but he brought in the whole kind of like it was kind of like a fucking gangster style, but it was more of a fucking lyric shit. And
mm,
then that right there changed hell Atlanta too, because then everybody wanted to be a fucking trap boy, And I don't want to say he created trap boy music, but everybody wanted to be a trap boy, or everybody wanted to be a fucking dope boy. They everyone thought fucking how they could slang little 5 and 10 dime bags, and like motherfuckers like really started trying to sell and shit like that. I'm sure it made wonderful business for the state, because motherfuckers were getting locked up, fucking left and right. But hell, when he came out, with his, CDs, it changed stuff, because he was like the second coming of, or like the second generation from Outkast and Goody Mob, because people always stray so far from their roots, and they
mm,
lose sight, of true principle. And now it was really just about, how materialistic wealth, and how
mm.
what can I get and how can I feed my own ego.
Right, damn, yo. Yeah, that's how it seems these days, yo. Well,
Yep.
actually, it's always kind of seemed that way. We just have the eyes and ears to kind of see the shit more clear, right?
Yep.
And as far as like some of these underrated artists that you might wish that the whole world would hear a little bit more of and be exposed towards, you got like a short list off a hand of folks that could learn a shitload from some of these artists and how they you know portray higher consciousness, spiritual stuff, or just truth shit.
Um, one of my favorite like underground artists who most people never really heard of was Big L, and
Mm.
mind you, he passed way too early.
Oh yeah.
Um, one of the members from the Wu Tang Clan, the Jizza,
Feeling it.
His lyrics was the best out of the group, and I always felt he never got the recognition that he, should have gotten. Like his lyrics was always hard, man. Like always hard. His solo career was like never really that good. He'll play a fly from his earlier days, he'll freaking just because it was just something that had resonated with me. It's funny because like around like 2004, like hell, I ventured hell away to like to other genres, and hell, freaking that was when I was opening up my doors. So like I can't really like bring in a like most individual artists. And if I could help, I would really have to think hard, man. Because you're talking about going into a realm, hell, hell that's in my subconscious that I haven't really thought about in a while.
But yeah, as far as what does this mean to you, as far as just like word, sound, power? Because I hear that a good amount, like in hip hop and just like slam poetry and that kind of shit.
Word, sound, power. To me, that equates to energy, because I mean, think about it. When you hear someone's words, someone can be good with words, and they can use those words to inspire. Same thing with sound. Certain frequencies, certain energies can resonate, with you, and can harmonize with you, and that will create certain energies, within you. And then here we talk about power. Well, power is energy. Power is will. So in actuality, we're talking about will power, which is energy. So those are that words is what comes to my mind, because you're talking about. Are you familiar with what Fohat is?
Fohat?
Yeah, Fohat. That Blavatsky talked about.
No.
She talked about this universal prime electric energy, and she just called it Fohat. Now, mind you, she was one of the main people who talked about it, and I think only her and a few other people talked about it. But she's talking about this universal prime source of energy. And she's not really talking about like a God kind of energy, but she's talking about like the electrical current that stimulates, that starts, that kind of gets things to create, that kind of starts fluidity. And she just called it Fohat, So I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind, because you're talking about willpower. Too many people want to just sit around and not do anything, but it takes energy to do things. Everything requires energy. To get energy requires sacrifice. So what are you willing to give up to get things done? So when you mention, what word, sound, and a power, energy was the first thing that came to mind, Fohat, because we see a lot of people who are just sitting back, not doing anything, because they lack the energy. They lack that empathy, and and our emotions can help energize us. They lack that care. Care is a form of energy. How energy is frequency. How frequency is vibration. So all of those words kind of resonate with me, and pretty much mean the same. And that's really what comes to mind, because that's really what is the universal force as far as creation. How we heard it as care. Yes, that is true. Like you got to have that energy to start. To put things in motion that requires energy. And then two, energy is the one thing that is keeping us away from each other, because friction is energy. And that's why they always need two things to create friction, to create that negative form of energy, because therefore it keeps us, colliding with ourselves and colliding with each other, that we ever really, we can never really come to any form of knowing. We can never really come to any form of understanding, or harmony. So it has its negative standpoints, and it has its positive standpoints, but I view it more as a positive way.
Yeah. Wow, so fucking well said, man. Thank you so much for that. Pretty blown away by that, to be honest. Yeah, the whole negative feedback loop shit. Yeah, we got to break these fucking cycles, real talk. And I feel like people can easily break those negative feedback loops cycles within themselves, first and foremost, because that's where it fucking starts, right? On that individuated level. then we're going to get the macrocosm out there, the whole law of correspondence. But yeah, just like taking the time and energy to finding one's true care and love and all that stuff. And I swear, once I had that, something like activated within me where I had like, you know, more life force fucking energy than I ever had in my life, type of thing.
Yeah.
And I've just been rolling with that. And it's just living in alignment as much as possible, you know, like we can't be perfect 24/7, you know, we're all fucking human, you know, but just like striving to be better all the time. Like it's a good feeling, man. So, and like just being able to like have music to groove to that's just like confirming and like on that path, and which is kind of why I like to do what I do. They're like kind of like there can be soundtrack tracks too, like, you know, these, you know, higher levels of awareness and all that shit, you know. So it's just keep it on the vibe, man. Higher frequencies, you know. Try to do it frequently.
Yeah. Frequencies are important for us to understand, man, because, you know, frequencies are all about how resonating, or, you know, how they are going to, you know, how go held against each other. So if we are not on the right frequency with truth, we are not on that right internal frequency, how can we ever frequently, you know, how harmonize with someone else? So I mean, it's like how you can't, man, you know, and we got to have that masculine and that feminine, you know, how harmonize, you know, how within our own self first. You know, how some people call it how the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. Some people call it the subconscious and hella conscious. Hell, I don't care how what you call it. It's just
Right.
got to be on the same frequency. It's got to be that balance. It's got to be, you know, have that harmony. Because most people are just in that polar hell extreme, you know. It's
Yeah.
either, you know, have masculine or straight feminine, or, you know, hell fucking hell left brain, you know, right brain. There is no balance hell within them. And then, you know, hell they're going around hell joining cults, you know, hell using coercion, hell against everyone else, you know, hell being a fucking mini-me tyrant, still believing in hell authority because they think that they're somehow going to seek balance by some form of external, you know, hell gratification, you know, hell by the group, you know, hell by, hell by the savior cult, you know, how someone's going to come and rescue me, you know, how rather it be Jesus, fucking Yahweh, you know, fucking Muhammad, or the damn Palladians, or, you know, hell money. You know, hell, a lot of people think that if they get enough money, that somehow it's going to balance them out. It's like, no, man, you're going to be in even more problems. You know, because, dude, hell, people be surprised. Sometimes I'm at my most happiest when I am fucking flat broke. Because when you got money, you're worried about what you're going to spend it on. And then, hell, you're worried about, hell, am I going to need to buy this? Am I going to need to get this fixed? And then you start buying shit. You know, hell, you buying all these materialistic goods. Well, the shit going to break. Hell, eventually, it may not be, you know, hell, in 1 or 2 months, but hell, in a few years, then you got to get the shit fixed. Then you got to get more fucking money. And then it just creates this perpetual loop, you know, I got to have more, I got to have more, I got to have more. And fucking that's the ego, you know, hell, I got to have more. It's like, you got to let all that shit go, man. You just got to let it all go. The only thing that you need
Yeah.
more of is to be
Weighing
in
down on
harmony
your
with
soul.
yourself. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we discussed a lot of these things, kind of the sort, you know, as far as
Yeah.
living life as a feather and all that shit that one's got to endeavor. But yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, yo.
Yeah. Have great talk, man. Have great talk.
Fuck yeah, dude. Anything else you wanted to mention? I know we're inching on 2 hours, and you know, might as
Yeah.
well.
One question for you,
Yeah,
because
please.
I think I asked this last time, but like, how the hell do you manage all of those songs and like putting it all together, man? Because
Mm.
hell, I think I listened to like 8 or so mix, and with each mix can have over 20 different songs. So, you know, like, how have you kept up with all of that for so long? I mean, like, freaking, do you have like multiple SSDs with just all different, you know, from what hell, like the late 90s to the 2000s?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to keep these things organized. You know, I really took the time back in like 2010. I arrived in Paris to be with my French wife in crutches. I had a recent knee surgery, and so I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. and I brought all my, all my music media and stuff and shit that was on discs that I wanted to put into a computer. My wife gave me her Mac, and that was my first time using iTunes. And I just picked it up and ran the fuck with it up until the present moment, because I just like how things can be organized and all that shit, and having genres and being able to tap in all this information and shit. I'm sure that there's other programs, but whatever. I'm not the biggest Apple fan or iTunes, blah blah blah. But what it did do was permit me the time to actually like write out all these, especially I had so much underground hip hop. I collected a lot of music. I collected it like it was baseball cards. I had inheritance money from my grandfather who passed away, and I spent thousands of dollars on fucking music, like no joke. And I spent too much of it, but so long story short, man, I had all this music, and like after like really like waking the fuck up, like after some kind of quantum leap, like I had like my inner ears woke the fuck up, and like my memory was more clear, and like harken back on all these songs, like wow, these guys are speaking about this. Okay, wow, I'm gonna do something with this. I made some first ones of like just like wake the fuck up types of mixes, and then I made it more specific towards topics and subjects, and it just accumulated, and just like listening to music, even on my way to work and this and that, and I would have to take I would like stop on the road, like wow, I gotta stop it on this time, I gotta snip this little snippet, and then put this track into this mix, or like, oh, they're talking about this, I got this. I literally have like 100 different types of fucking genre or playlists that I have like ready to be transformed into like these musical projects that I put out, talking about a certain subject or whatever, And sometimes I have to boil down 100 tracks that I put into like, sometimes I put 50 tracks into these, the projects, and that doesn't always include all the audio snippets of the likes of like Passio and Boza and Mammoth B. Hall and them cats. But I'm talking about like little cuts and snippets that I kind of personally tailor made myself, and kind of throw them in the mix as well, and just like adding all these dimensions to the same type of subject or issue that we're fucking trying to address here. And I love the fact that this art form has so many fucking wordsmiths, lyricists, that are just so phenomenal of how they can, flip the words in the rhyme scheme in so many fucking ways, and like you can hear the same thing in so many different ways. It's so cool, I find, And I can kind of get redundant sometimes. I try to keep it fresh and not make it that way, but that's pretty much how I roll, and I sometimes try to go in a story line way of, from A to Z in a mix, or like the hero's journey. Like we're starting with a problem, or like things are all good, and then we got issues, and then we like got to resolve it, and then that kind of shit, man. So yeah, I'm just trying to. I wouldn't say still an experiment, but to a degree, yes, and just all this stuff. I'm just, yeah, man. It's been a journey, to say the least, man. I appreciate the question. Did it answer that pretty good, or?
Yeah, because
like as far as the programs I use, I have a like GarageBand as my canvas, if you will, and I'll put like the full length songs on there, and then I mix certain songs together on like virtual DJ or something like that.
Yeah, because whenever I'm listening to one of your mixes, I'm like, man, like, how does he help put these together, like how does he help manage like each mix? Because if each mix is, like based on a certain, a certain title, or, like you did the one on Hell My Yacht, then I mean, you got to keep track of not just a song, but certain verses, help that may mention it. So I'm sure it can get tedious.
Yeah, and I've grown up. I was kind of like a hip hop nerd. I was favoring lyrics over beats a long, long time ago. And yeah, man. And yeah, it's no disrespect to any artists out there that I've featured in these mixes, but yeah, sometimes I will cut out like a little verse, or even like a little snippet of something that just within that one song, because it just
Yeah.
it didn't flow right, or it's just taken away from the messages or whatever.
Yeah.
Keep it more relevant and prevalent and whatever the hell, more heaven sent, I guess.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
never
that's what's up.
bends.
Yeah, we've been talking for 2 hours. And my back is telling me that I need to
Boom,
get
we
up
did it.
and stretch. Yeah. So,
Likewise,
where
brother.
can people find your work? Even though there are sources that are going to be posted.
Yeah, I'll send you my link tree. I'm on YouTube. That's where I got my biggest subscriber base under my moniker AwakenYaMind. I use my real name on BitChute. Hey, aren't you proud of me, Dad? And yeah, I'm also on Rumble now, finally, and RoxyTube. How about that one?
Okay. Yeah.
Odyssey, of course. Odyssey is the biggest one under my DJ moniker. It has my full length discography of over 100 of these music mixes, and that literally equates to like 150 hours of, for the majority of it, conscious fucking music.
Yeah. That everyone should go and check out. Like even if you were just doing something, put on one of these mixes freaking in the background. And that's what I like is, how some music can pull your focus away. When I have your mixes playing like in the background, it makes my ability to focus more easy, or it enhances that ability because the lyrics and words aren't so overbearing, the beats aren't so fucking overbearing. So it's been very good for me to have one of your mixes playing helpful in the background as I'm trying to create a presentation or I'm trying to edit a fucking video, which I can't stand editing a damn video. It takes so damn long. But
Yeah, try to have fun with it, man. I know it
yeah.
sucks, but dude,
Yeah.
that really means a lot to me. It's really touching to hear you say that, man. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. If you got over 100 something mixes, then I still need to go back and check them all out. So
Yeah, there's like my YouTube channel is missing like at least like 30 mixes at this point, just because of the copyright infringements and things. There's some artists that their whole discography I can't even fuck with and have on
yeah,
like YouTube. It's unfortunate, and it kind of limits my creative things and how I want to have these mixes like perfect. The last couple mixes I've had to take things out so it can be YouTubeable and playable there, when it's like there's an extra like hour of music on the original mix that I'm gonna upload on BitChute or Odyssey. So
yeah,
yeah, man, it is what it is,
yeah.
man. We know about
YouTube's
the whole
going down the
YouTube
toilet.
rate. Can
Oh
you
yeah,
screw
fuck
breathe
YouTube. Yeah, I'm on my third account. So yeah,
Yeah, man. Shoot.
it's getting crazy. But yeah. Thanks for joining me, Derek. It's been
Yeah. Thanks for having me,
a
bro.
blast, man. It's been a
Yeah,
blast.
yeah. Keep up the great work, man. I really appreciate your persistence and consistent, positive attitude. Even though, like, yeah, it's a fucking drag having to like build your shit back up after it got wiped out and shit like that, and like having to find and build up that subscriber base. I mean, like, I want to have another YouTube channel, but I don't want to start with 0 subscribers. How does this work?
Yeah,
Or
and then
whatever, right?
too,
It's like, yeah.
it's like starting over and you have a target on your back because hell, not only did one channel get taken down, but two channels got taken down. So they just waiting for me to help to slip up. And that's why I only post like shorter videos telling people like, hey, YouTube is not for freedom. If you want to watch this full video, then you need to jump onto another platform. Because honestly,
I saw that one
like
video.
YouTube is not worth my fucking time, anymore. It's just there are still billions of people, who use it as a means of entertainment. So there may be someone, who may get recommended a video. So it's like let's try to influence them to jump on other platforms because these other platforms are at least trying to do it right. And how you brought up Rumble, soon I'm going to be trying to upload my stuff to Rumble because Rumble seems to be one of those platforms that are trying to do it right. And I'm going to look into some more platforms to upload my stuff. Now, mind you, it's going to take some time, but hell, that's the sacrifice that comes along with it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, at least there's some good music out there, and other great podcasts and other things of that nature that we can listen to pass the time of that, grueling, great, hard work. Sometimes it is kind of arduous, and it does take a shitload of time, even just to make a fucking, a little thumbnail, cool picture, whatever thing. Sometimes, So yeah, I feel you, man, and yeah, much respect, Brandon, for sure.
Yeah, right back to you. How much respect, and I do enjoy your work, and keep it up, man. Keep it up.
Fuck yeah. Your shit's phenomenal, and you got one of the smoothest voices in network, man. I was telling Maria, so yeah, that's what's up, man. Keep it up, bro.
I am the biggest critic when it comes to my voice.
No way.
Because I understand the struggles that I've had to go through. So I hear when I stutter. I hear when I have it, just because I've analyzed my voice for so long. And it's something that I have to live with because the motherfuckers told me that I would grow out of my stuttering. But nah, 36 years old and I still stutter. But hell, that's why I have to talk so slow, because if I start getting my Bone Thugs and Harmony on, and my twister, then my probability of stuttering is going to be increase. So it's just becoming aware, of my own speech. Yeah.
Yeah. Even when I was in middle school, even I had to go to like some speech correctional class too, man. Yeah.
Yep. Hell, I remember those days. Yep. But
hey, we grew up,
times.
Man. It's good. Yeah. So
hey,
you got a
fucking
powerful
no one's
voice.
Perfect.
Keep it up. Brother.
Appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah.
So I want to thank everyone for for tuning in, and then please do not forget the End of Slavery Summit that's being hosted by Corey Ingerlet and Aaron Butler, starting tomorrow. Peace out. Yep, and I'm going to show my outro that was created by Derek.
Cool. Cheers, yo.
The effects are inherent in their causes. We observe every day that causes produce consequences. But most people are so much interested in their own ideas about consequences that they overlook the problem of causation.